In early 2019, the world was thrown with the news of dangerous outbreak of virus, which is COVID-19. The outbreak has given a lot of negative effect to the country. One of the effects of this pandemic on the economy is the position of gross domestic product (GDP). According to updated International Monetary Fund (IMF), GDP growth is expected to fall to negative 1.7% in 2020 and take up to 9% in 2021. Since the beginning of the Movement Control Order (MCO), various incentives has been given to the people so that the economic movement occur as usual. The purpose of the incentive is to boost the economy, protect citizens and businesses, as well as strengthen the country's economy.
Tourism sector in Malaysia. Tourism sector in Malaysia, they have 8 contribution, which is with the trade, food and beverage, country-specific tourism, which is service, accommodation, culture, sport and recreation, passenger transport, automotive fuels, travel agencies. At 2019, retail trade was 46.2%, food beverage 18%, country-specific tourism, which is service 12.3%, accommodation 11.1%, culture, sport and recreation 4.7%, passengers transport 3.9%, automotive fuels 2%, and travel agencies 1.8%. We can see that tourism sector was dominated by the retail trade. Okay, next we go to performance of internet tourism consumption. Internet tourism consumption is composed of inbound and domestic tourism spending. Tourism internal consumption continues to expand at 6.8% compared to 6.9% in 2018. For the first time since the TSA compilation in 2015, the national tourism expenditure outweighed the inbound tourism expenditure. The proportion of domestic tourism expenditure to internal tourism consumption rose to 50.9% from 48.6% in 2018. Next, we go to inbound tourism expenditure. Inbound tourism expenditure increased from 87.7 billion in 2018 to 89.4 billion in 2012, which grew 2% as compared to 2.3% in 2018. This is accordance with the average length of stay, which increased to 7.4 nights as compared to 6.5 nights in 2018. The component of tourism contribute 97%, which is 86.7 billion, to the inbound tourism expenditure, while the remaining 3%, which is 2.7 billion, was received for excursionists. Okay, here we can see that for shopping, they have 33.3%, accommodation 24.4%, and passengers transport was 18.4%. Now we go to domestic tourism expenditure. Domestic tourism expenditure record 82.7 billion in 2018, increased to 92.6 billion in 2019, which a consistent double-digit growth of 12% in 2019. The better performance of domestic tourism expenditure was supported by shopping as the biggest contribution at 42.1%, followed by automotive fuels 16.7%, and food and beverage 15.9%.
Domestic tourism expenditure. Domestic tourism expenditure recorded RM92.6 billion in 2019, while 2018 RM82.7 billion, with a consistent double-digit growth of 12.0%, and 2018 12.3%. The better performance of domestic tourism expenditure was supported by shopping as the biggest contributor at 42.1%, followed by automotive fuel 16.7%, and food and beverage also 19.9%. This is the graph 2015 to 2019 for domestic tourism expenditure. Next, outbound tourism expenditure. Outbound tourism expenditure show of the resident visitors abroad recorded an increase to RM 44.8 million in 2019 from RM 41.1 billion in 2018. The main share of components in the outbound tourism expenditure in 2018 are passengers transport 31.8%. This is the highest number, is the highest percentage for 2019, recorded for 2019. And second is shopping, 24.35%, and accommodation 22.5%. So the graph is here, 2015 to 2019 for outbound tourism expenditure. Next, we move to tourism ratio. Tourism ratio measure the level of internal tourism consumptions towards the domestic supply in the tourism industry. In 2019, the tourism ratio recorded at 39.3% compared to 39.6% in the preceding year, which show the consumption of non-tourism product increased by 0.3% percentage points. Accommodation is the most consumed product by visitors with a consumption rate of 92.6%, followed by travel agencies and other reservation services, which is 81.4%. And the last one is passenger transport services, which is 55.6%. So this is the percentage for the tourism ratio by tourism products. And lastly, employment in tourism industry. In 2019, employment in the tourism industry recorded 3.6 million people, while 2018, 3.55 million, which contribute 23.6%, while in 2018, 23.5% to the total employment. Food and beverage preparation services are the highest, which is 34.7%, followed up by retail trade, which is 32.5%, and country specific tourism services with 16.8%. This is the graph for employment in tourism industry. So that's all. Thank you.
Today I will explain to you about the impact of COVID-19 to the tourism economy. The tourism economy is one of the largest market in economy. It can gain more revenue if you run a tourism business. Because the pandemic of COVID-19, many business has bankrupt because the pandemic COVID-19 make more people can go overseas or holiday. So it will affect to the tourism economy. So tourism economy can get more worse because of the COVID-19. First of all, we can see the pandemic COVID-19 also affect some country that make the tourism economy as the main economy. We can see because many people can go overseas and they cannot go abroad to the country, some others country. So it will make effect to some country that make tourism economy as the main economy. Like we can see, like Malaysia, we have visit Malaysia 2020 that also affect because the pandemic COVID-19. Many others country cannot get into Malaysia because the pandemic COVID-19 has banned certain country that has higher. Pandemic COVID-19 also affect to the airlines company. Airlines company cannot go traveling and their travel has been banned because the pandemic COVID-19. Their demand on their service also drop down because many people cannot go overseas and abroad. It make others company more worse in their income. So some company has made decision to fire their staff because they cannot pay their wage more because now people has used their airlines company. You can see the pandemic COVID-19 also affect to the hotel business. Some hotel business get many reservation was being cancelled because the MCO or the lockdown has been done. So some customer can cannot get to their hotel because the lockdown. So many hotel get more bankrupt in their business because many customer cannot go to the holiday and their hotel being more decrease in their service. Hotel also need to spend more their money to do cleaning room from the virus because many people was go and check in to their hotel, so they need to be clean from the virus of COVID-19. In conclusion, we can see the COVID-19 had affect many of us from the health until the tourism. So we need to take care of ourselves. Please stay at home and don't go anywhere if you doesn't need. Please don't forget your mask.
Okay. My part is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is change in the government and tax. They are intending to achieve macroeconomic and objective. Fiscal policy has two types: is expansionary fiscal policy and contractionary fiscal policy. What the expansionary and contractionary? Okay. When the economy in recession, government will action with the expansionary fiscal policy, which is increase government spending or decrease tax. While the contractionary fiscal policy, which is government action with the increase government spending and decrease tax. At this time, our country happy the epidemic COVID-19. So, action government is the expansionary because our economy is recession. So, you can see the government will increase government spending, which is give bonus at frontliners, at doctor, at police, and we get the BPN. And also the government will decrease tax, which is expand the liability, which is expand the PTPTN to 6 months and give pay off the car and so on. So now you can see the graph. For example, C equal 500 plus 0.6 YD. Investment equal 200, government equal 200, and tax equal 100. While government increase with the 300. Formula equal Y equal C plus I plus G. So using the formula Y equal C plus I plus G. So Y equal 500 plus 0.6 bracket Y minus 100 close bracket plus 200 plus 200. So you can get the total is Y equal 2100. So initial equilibrium is Y cos 0 plus equal 2100. And when the government increase with the 300, you can using the same formula, which is Y plus C plus I plus G. So you can get the total is 2350. Based on the graph, initial equilibrium is E0, which is price level is P0, and quantity of the, output is Y0, which is 2100. And when the government using expansionary fiscal policy, which is increase government spending, aggregate demand move to the right, which is Y0 will increase to Y1, which is 2315, and price level is increased P0 to P1.
So today I will explain about monetary policy. So the monetary policy is the macroeconomic policy set down by central bank. It includes the management of money supply and interest rate. So there is two types of monetary policy. The first is contractionary policy, which is government policy increase the supply money, and expansionary refer to government policy, which is it decrease money of supplies. Okay, in this pandemic, we can see tourism having a lot of crisis. So government chose expansionary monetary policy to stimulate tourism sector, and the government also considers to increase borrowing and spend more on infrastructure. The goal of government is to achieve to maximize revenue and create job a lot to local people, and then to decrease interest rate, which is through provide BPN but to international. That's all. Thank you.
Because of this pandemic COVID-19, economy has facing recession. So government has chosen expansionary monetary policy to overcome this problem. Now I will show how the graph will look like. Based on the graph, the economy represent is in recession, which is the initial equilibrium is MA0, with the real GDP of the nominal interest rate is NIR, and the quantity of output is SM, which is below potential GDP. When the government using an expansionary monetary policy will increase the government spending and money supply, it will cause a shift of aggregate demand move to the right, which is new equilibrium is quantity of output is SM to SM1, and nominal interest rate is NIR to NIR1. At the level potential real GDP, the low nominal interest rate will result in increased bond rate, money demand decrease, and money supply will increase. However, when this policy is carried out, there will be an excess supply of money. To overcome the problem, the government needs to use the money to provide assistance to the people who have been affected by the economic recession. Among the effort that the government has implemented at this time is the Bantuan Perhatian Nasional, which is BPN. The pandemic condition that threatened the country's economy has slightly derailed the tourism sector as well. In view of Malaysia's vital sector tourism industry that generate economic growth, the government and other respective institutions are still looking for solutions that are suitable in this post-COVID-19 era. In the pandemic era, all the sector-related chains also experienced the impact. Among the most impressed by the hospitality sector, tourism, transportation agencies, especially air freight and tourism buses. One part of the government, the role is played through the granting of several incentives to the industry. Second, for travel agencies, with the spread of COVID-19, travel service requests, especially from outside or to external destinations, is extremely slow. This means travel agencies need to convert their target to domestic tourism. The conclusion is, if everything plays a role and plays their respective responsibilities, from the beginning of fourth quarter of next year is expected to increase demand for tourism from the domestic market segment.